Morning, YouTube world. Mr. C here. I must be crazy. 5:10 on a Sunday morning, and where most people are still tucked up nice and warm in bed, I'm going out earning a crust. I'm going out to earn some money. I've took a new job, and it's at Coventry. And that's 123 miles every day that I do now. 123 miles, guys. But I'm working for a really, really good company. They really look after the workers. The boss is brilliant. The project manager's brilliant. Everybody at the company is brilliant, to be honest. And to be fair, I cannot do enough for this company, you know. I really can't. I'm happy at work. I've got a great bunch of lads working under me at the moment from a subcontract company, and yeah, it's great. So generally my job is Monday to Friday. I normally work, I'm on site for about 6:30 and I'm finished by 3:00. I'm on my way home. Can't really complain at that. We've got a bit of work on over the last weekend and this weekend. We're just breaking some concrete out because we're doing enabling works. We're preparing for the main job, which is a multi-million-pound job. So what you see this morning is literally enabling works. It's preparing. So we're stripping back ground. Richard out there, one of the subscribers, mate, machine driver, one of the best. You'll know what I'm talking about. So we're stripping out embankments, we're stripping out curbs, we're stripping out tarmac, we're digging down to formation, we're putting 400 mil of stone in, we're putting 400 mil of concrete in, we're making a 35 by 10 metre crane pad, and probably in a few months' time we're going to have a 600 ton crawler crane sat on that pad for the next 3 years, removing and replacing the equipment, which I'll show you later. Right, fags rolled, check. 5:12, check. Let's get on the road, and I think I'll have to stop for some diesel, guys. Well, beautiful morning. Sun's just coming up. Here we are in sunny Ripley this morning. Not a car on the road. That's why I like Sunday morning driving, to be honest. So in about 10 minutes we'll be on the motorway on the M1, get on at junction 26, and then I'll be getting off at Leicester, jumping on the M69, heading towards Coventry, and I'll be there in about, I don't know, an hour and a quarter. But yeah, really nice morning this morning. Oh, there's PC plod. Better keep my speed down. Police cars have changed in the UK over the years. They've got new paintwork now, new stickers. See lots of dark blue or black and green ones on the motorways. But then you don't see many police cars on the motorways in the UK now. Most of them are sort of Golfs and Skodas, and they're all sort of black and dark, and then they're all undercover. You don't really see them till they start flashing the blue lights everywhere. Sneaky bastards. Right, I think I'll make a detour into PINAY and get myself some fuel. Because this thing, even though I'm getting about 38 to the gallon out of it, when it's doing about 80 mile an hour, it's drinking fuel. I'm filling up every single week. Well, literally every 4 to 5 days, I'm having to put a full tank in it. Never mind. The good thing about this contract, this company, is they pay me £350 a month to use my own car, and then they're giving me 45 pence for every mile I drive as well, which is it's actually more than I spend in fuel, and it does put a little bit of something aside for in case I've got to do any maintenance to the car, which to be fair, guys, driving a Range Rover, it comes in quite handy because there's always something. I mean, for instance, at the moment when I go over speed bumps, I've got a bit of a, I don't know, like a bit of a click. I can sort of hear it from the back. It's like a rattle, like something swinging. And I was looking on YouTube, and potentially it may be one of the dampers that's not working anymore, that's just clicking. You don't get it every time you go over a bump, but when you go over a bit of a speed up, it just sounds like something's swinging about. I need to get under it when I've got 5 minutes and just take a look and see exactly what it is, guys. Now this is the road to Nottingham, coming from Ripley, and as you can see, we live pretty much in the countryside. Ripley, I've lived here for about 7 years. It's a small town, and it's right in the middle of Nottingham and Derby. So I could be in Nottingham in 20 minutes, I could be in Derby in 20 minutes. There's a local golf course. I don't play golf. I'm absolutely shit at golf. But yeah, we're literally about 20 minutes from Nottingham, 20 minutes from Derby, and so we've got cities. We've got a choice of 2 cities. I prefer Derby to go anywhere. Nottingham is just too many speed cameras, and it's a bit of a shithole, to be honest. Sorry to everybody from Nottingham, but I prefer Derby. And also, I can be on the M1 within 15 minutes, right in the middle of the country. So if I want to work north or south, I'm there. This is me abiding by speed limits this morning, as usual. But yeah, it's a really nice place to live, Ripley. I do like it here. It's very quiet. I lived in the city for quite a few years. But then I sort of moved away, went somewhere nice and quiet, and I must say I like it here. It's much more relaxed. People are nice. I sort of keep myself to myself. Just live the simple life. Can't really see much because of the hedgerows, but just over to the left, I mean, it's full of fields, and it is really nice. Right, let's swing by Langley Mill to get some fuel, and then we'll jump back on. We'll be on the M1 in maybe about 10 minutes. So we've just bypassed Heanor. Heanor's off to the right somewhere. Langley Mill's straight in front of us, and then we'll jump back onto the road I've just left, and that takes us straight to the M1. But look at this. No cars around this morning, guys. Absolutely no cars. Talking of cars, I've spotted one. I might actually go and knock this person's door at some point and see if he wants to sell it. Because there's this old American car sat down here, and it's sat there with a flat tyre, and it's a right beast. And I just fancy another project. I just do, for some reason. And I keep spotting this every morning. Look at it. Look at this thing here. What is it? It is... I don't even know what it is. Oh, it's a Cadillac. It's a Cadillac. It needs a bit of work, but how cool is that? That'd be really nice if it was a convertible version. So this is Langley Mill. This is a little village just outside where we live. Go to the petrol station here because it's a bit cheaper. I mean, during all this shit with the Iraq war and the prices of bloody diesel and petrol have gone right up, you know, it's costing me quite a lot of money. It's costing me about £150 to fill my tank from let's say a quarter of a tank every week now. Oh, it's a local McDonald's, or one of them. We've got McDonald's all over here. I must admit, I'm missing the Jollibees. I am missing the Jollibees. We're planning to go back to the Philippines in October, so I can't wait for that. It's not Traffic lights around here. That's something else you don't see in the Philippines, is traffic lights. Really don't see anything. Right, here's the old local Esso. Let's get in here and get robbed. Robbed for fuel. Costs a bloody fortune. Let's go and fill up, guys. I reckon it's going to be about £145, so let's play the how much am I going to get robbed game today. I think it's going to be about 145 quid. Let's find out. Well, yeah, wasn't bad. Don't know if you can see that. £142 something. That's to take it up to full. £1.84.9 a litre. You can't beat starting the day off by getting bloody robbed blind at the fuel station, guys. Oh, Trump's got a lot to answer for. Complete bell end. Oh well. Let's get on with the show, eh? Can't beat a Sunday morning. I could be laid at home now with Mrs. C, snoring her head off in bed. Bless her. But I'm not. I'm going to work. But to be fair, I'll be done by about 1 o'clock. I'll be home by about 2:30 today, guys. And I think I get like a time-and-a-half rate for this. Even though I'm on salary, they're sorting me out an overtime rate. So I think I'll be on something like £35 an hour, £40 an hour. Ah, this is always a nasty bit trying to get on here, because you get people flying up on your right hand side. Oh well, let's go. No speed cameras on this road, guys. And the big old V8s just thunders along. I'll be there in no time. Well, 2 or 3 minutes later, junction 26, M1, the south. There we go. Look at that for timing. See what this motorway's like this morning. Got to be a bit careful on here because there's bloody speed camera galore. Thing about the UK, speed cameras everywhere. And come Christmas time, they're absolutely nabbing everybody. Filling up the little piggy banks for the policemen's banquets. Putting money in the government's pockets. Bastards. They spoil your fun. Speed cameras cause more accidents, I think. Because everybody goes... I mean, it's an unwritten rule in the UK now. The speed limit's 70 on the motorways, but everybody does about 80. And then what you'll get is a speed camera pops up, a fixed speed camera, and then everybody starts to panic and brake. It doesn't matter, because they've already gone through the first part, the sensor, and they're just seeing the yellow boxes. And they slow down, the brake lights come on. And if you're not paying attention, the next minute, you're hanging out the back end of a bloody Vauxhall Astra. You know, so I think they can cause more accidents than anything else. They're a good thing, obviously. But people just go fast and then they only slow down for cameras. This isn't too shabby, guys. 5:30, Sunday morning, M1 southbound, and there's not much happening. It's lovely. Very relaxed. This speed camera here catches a lot of people out. You just get under this bridge, and just here where the silver car is, you can see the sensor. And there's your camera where the silver car is now. That's always going off. It's always flashing people. You see it a lot when you're coming the other way going home. Look, hardly any cars on the road. The last time I drove like this was when COVID was on, and I was working in, where was I working? Southampton. And I was travelling from my home to Southampton once a week, and there was just nothing on the road. Nothing. But this is so much nicer, so much more relaxed. Well, we're on the M1. A little bit of traffic. Got my trusty travel cup this morning. Sort of colour coordinates with my shirt. Brilliant. So I'll have a nice relaxed cup of coffee. Cruise control set at 80. Range Rover pretty much drives itself. I don't mind putting so much fuel in this big old girl because, you know what, she's so comfortable. That's the one good thing about driving to work in this. You get out the other end, you're relaxed. You could hit a button for massage seats, but I'd want to fall asleep on the way there. But it's, yeah, climate controlled, big fat leather seats, bloody gorgeous. All I've got to do is watch out for speed cameras and just keep knocking off the cruise control every time I'm coming up to one. Anyway, good morning to everybody. Good morning to all my family. So it's Isaac. Hi guys. Ding Dong Steve on his way to work. And I hope you enjoyed your little presents from Hassan and Steve. I really hope you did. Good morning, Morris. Good morning, Maricel. Morris will be working hard. I think he's coming home on Wednesday. That's my godchildren's mum and dad, or my sister and my brother-in-law. Lovely people. We're going to be seeing them in October. We're going to go and live with them for a month in the mountains in the Philippines. Yeah. Good morning, little brother, Junior, Ronaldo Junior, Jing, wife Jing. Hi, Kyla, my little niece. We're definitely coming over in October 17th. Uncle Steve remembered. We've got a special princess birthday party to sort out, so we'll be over for that. And hello to everybody else, all the YouTube subscribers, all our family, cousins, family, friends. Hey Tom, my son, if you're watching. Yeah, Dad's out working. Another speed camera. Oh. So, I'm running out of things to talk about. But I thought I'd better do some sort of a blog, at least one blog this week, because, to be honest, I've been that busy. We're working 7 days a week, and Ascension's been working as well. We just haven't had time to do anything, guys. We haven't. Coming up to payday again. I think it's the 25th of this month when we get paid. But at least now both of us are working again. We've got some money coming in. And I've sort of bought stuff for the Philippine trip. I've been buying stuff for the motorcycle, panniers and luggage. I've got a couple of motorbike jackets and some gloves. And I even bought the thing for the helmet where the DJI Action 5 Pro camera will sit. They sort of clip onto the front of the full face helmets. I bought 2 of them, so I can use my Action 5 camera on the helmet when we're over there to get some better videos. Got some shirts, long sleeve shirts. That reminds me, I need to get some YouTube shirts made up again. I did say to Ronaldo, to Junior, my little brother, that I'll get him some long sleeve UK-PINAY shirts with and I'm going to get some that say Junior across the back as well, because he keeps taking my Filipino basketball vest with Cowdell across the back. If I buy any, Junior always wants one. I bought one last time I was there, and Junior ended up having it. So guess what, Junior? I bought 2 more blue ones and 2 more white ones this time. So I'm sure you'll be after a white one next time, huh? Okay, you can have one of them. That's not a problem. But because Junior, well, it's a long story. But if you go back for the videos, you'll see it. We wanted to help certain parts of the family. I mean, I met all the family when we went in December. It didn't go all that well in a lot of respects. It was fine when we was there, but I'm not going to go into it because Ascension will get upset. But things happened. Things happened as soon as we got back. Things were said. Stories were told. And these stories weren't true. They were not true. But I suppose that's just family for you. But anyway, long story short, I know who the good ones are now. I know who the bad ones are. I know who to avoid next time we go. I know who to trust. Junior and Jing, 100%. You know, lovely people. Junior, my little brother, I am so blessed to have such a little brother like Junior. Brilliant guy. So we looked after Junior. We bought him, we paid off the rest of the shop that he runs because the shop got sold to somebody else. Nobody asked him if he wanted to buy it. It got sold. So we bought the debt on the shop and we bought that for Junior. So now he owns his own shop. And then I bought him a new Baraka 175 motorcycle, brand new, absolutely brand new. And then we bought him a tricycle sidecar to put on the Baraka bike. And then we bought him what they call the Line, which is, it's like a taxi driver's license. It lasts for a lifetime. So we bought him that. And that, believe it or not, bloody hell, that cost nearly as much as the motorcycle. A ridiculous price. But what we've actually done now, we've put Junior, Jing and Kyler in a position where they own their own shop. Junior now outright owns his own tricycle, so he can go out and he's licensed for life. He's got a brand new motorbike, 3 years warranty on it, brand new tricycle, and it's so cool because he's got the UK-PINAY stickers on the back. He is so proud of that motorcycle. Bless him. I love that guy. But anyway, he can go out and work, and all he has to do with the money he earns every day is put fuel back in the bike, maybe do an oil change. But no, I think some of the oil change, the service is part of the 3-year warranty. I'm sure it is. So every peso that he earns on that now, that goes onto the table at home. That is, he owes nothing to anybody. He doesn't have to rent the motorcycle and pay rent on it. It's his. He belongs to him. There's nothing in my name, guys. Nothing. You know, it costs quite a bit of money, to be honest. But you know what? If you can't help good members of the family out, there's a problem, isn't there? And I did that because Junior would do absolutely anything for Ascension. You know, and he's been so good to me as well as his brother, and I love that guy so much. I'm so proud of him, my little brother Junior. He's such a good man. So anyway, he can now use that money and support his family, and he can buy stock for the shop, and it gives him that step up. So do you know that old saying about if you give men fish, they can live for a day, but if you teach them how to fish, they can live for a lifetime? So getting the tricycle and the shop is our way of teaching him to fish, giving him the tools to make money, to put food on the table. And that's what we've done. I'd like to think, you know, that little bit that we've done, that bit of struggle that we've had, meant a lot to Junior and Jing, and it has, you know, I know they're very thankful. But you guys, you're welcome. You really are. You know. Now, Maricel is Ascension's younger sister. Again, she is the sweetest, kindest lady you'll ever meet. She's quiet. She's so honest. She's lovely. She's beautiful. I was lucky when we went over at Christmas. I met Morris, who's her husband, and he lives in the mountain regions. Well, Morris is a very hard worker. You know, they built a little house, which you'll see in October because we're going to stay there. It's just breeze block and windows. It's not very big, but they have a lot of land around it, you know, and it's a beautiful place. So they live there now, and they have 2 children, Isaiah and Isaac. They're our godchildren. Morris is going away and working all the time. You know, he works hard. I think he does forestry or something. Maricel, she struggles at home. She's walking up hills and mountains to take her little one to school every day, and you know, they don't have a lot, but they're hard working. They're very honest people, very good people, and they've been so good to us. And when they gave us the honour to be Ning Nong, godfather and godmother to those 2 beautiful children, I was absolutely overwhelmed. I really was. I was so proud to be asked. And I am so proud of those children, you know. I will give the love of a godfather to those children for as long as I draw breath, as long as I'm breathing. If I have anything to do with it, those children, they'll have everything they need. School, clothes, food, anything I could do for those kids, I'll do. I want to give them the best head start, the best education. I want to help Maricel and Morris give those children, you know, the things they need to succeed in life. So that brings me on to the second part of my master plan. We thought, you know, we've helped Junior and Jing. We're going to help Morris and Maricel. But how do we do that? Question. So there's a scenario. They don't have a lot of money at the moment, but they have quite a bit of land. And it's paradise. It's the middle of nowhere. It's lovely. What about if we bought them pigs and goats and seed and maybe a tractor and maybe a little bit of machinery where they could plough the land and grow corn and vegetables to sell? What about if we built a piggery, pigsties, where we could keep pigs and help them with the food? What about if we bought them goats and helped them build a place where the goats could live? Maybe manok, maybe more chickens, geese. Anything they can raise, anything they can sell and make money. In my tiny mind, I figured out that Morris wouldn't have to go to work again on 6 months contracts. He could actually be at home with his wife and his children, and he could work on his own land, and he could feed the pigs and do things on the land, and then sell what he's grown or reared and make money that way. Wouldn't that be perfect? Because even Maricel, she's saying, oh, well, I'll go abroad, I'll go to another country and work. Oh my. Maricel, message from Big Brother, okay? No, you can't leave the children, sweetheart, with Morris. The children need you in their life at this time, and I know you're going to make money, but don't do it, love. Don't do it, okay? Just trust in us, trust in Ascension, trust in me. We're going to help. We're going to help. I'll give you that promise. I gave a promise to Junior, and I'll give you the same promise. We are going to help you. And the reason we're going to help you is because you're honest. You've never lied about me. You've never said bad words about Ascension or myself. You are family. You deserve this. But what sort of a brother would I be if I didn't help you? Big question. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now, concentrate on my driving, because I've still got quite a way to go. Just coming up on Leicester now, guys. Time check. It's nearly 6 o'clock. It's a bit been on the road for a little bit, but I did stop for fuel. Cruised about 70, 80 mile an hour. Funny thing with these Range Rovers, I don't know how many of you guys drive, but you'll get behind them and all of a sudden you'll see a big puff of smoke coming out the back of a Range Rover, out the exhaust pipe. Just for a bit, it's like a big cloud of smoke, and then off they go. There's a reason for that, and you'll find that normally the Range Rover that's doing it is a 4.4 V8 turbo diesel like this. And the reason for that, guys, is they've got two turbochargers. Now, it runs on one of the main turbochargers until it gets to about 2,000 revs, just over 2,000 revs. And then the second turbocharger kicks in. That's when you get a kick up the arse in your seat and it feels like it's pushing you into the back seat in these things. Now, the thing is, with the Range Rover, they're a massive engine and they've got an 8-speed gearbox. And they don't really get to a point when you're driving from A to B for that second turbocharger to start working. So what happens is you're working on the first turbo all the time. Your second turbo, it's still been lubricated. It's still got oil going through it, into the intercooler pipes. But it's not burning that oil off, guys, because it's never working hard enough to suck it through and burn it off. So that's why you get that puff of smoke every now and again when you decide to give it the beans and that oil's pulled up. You'll always find a little bit of oil in the intercooler pipes. The best thing you can do with these, totally illegal, is every now and again give it the beans. Get your boot down, clear that turbo out, get that turbo spinning up, suck that oil through, and then you won't get them puffs of smoke anymore. Not that I'm giving you any bad advice, guys, because I am very, very good at giving bad life ideas. But every now and again, we're not talking 70 mile an hour, guys. Let's just put it that way. Give it some, if you can, if it's safe to do so. And there's obviously no dark blue, black and fluorescent green cars around anywhere. No speed cameras, obviously. Just give it some. Right, there we are, coming off at Leicester. We are coming off at Leicester. Lovely. Junction 21. And I'm heading towards Coventry. It's been an absolute pleasure this morning, guys. An absolute pleasure. Even the traffic lights are with me. This is one of my favourite motorways now. The M69. Can you make the green light? No, he bloody well can't. Never mind. I've got one of those new pole stars at the end of me, right at my side at the moment. Oh, we've got a yellow light. Remember what I was talking about? Smoking the... Oh yeah, go on then. Wanna play? Play with the V8. We're not doing 90 already. We're definitely not doing 110 already. We're definitely not doing 130 already. But that has well and truly blown the turbo pipe out. That's what I was trying to tell you guys. If there's any policemen watching, I think I've got a problem with the speedometer. It definitely said 69.5 miles an hour there. As far as I'm concerned, officer, that's exactly what I was doing. It's just throttle it back to 80 again. I've got to be a responsible person now. I've just realised when I was looking down that I've got a wedding ring on my finger. And again, I've got to think about my two godchildren and my own children. Because they don't want any bad news today, do they, guys? I think a phone call from the police would not be a good thing for my wife this morning. She wouldn't be very happy about it. So now we're on the M69. Again, nice and clear. 6 o'clock. So in the next 20 minutes, I'll be at work. I will be at work. So I've had my little waffle this morning about plans to help family. Well, we've helped Junior. We're just going to help Marisol now. And told you about the plans to go back to the Philippines. I mean, we will go back to Mum's house, but I'm only going to stay there for as long as I need to. I'm going to stay there for a day, maybe 2 days, get my motorbike sorted out, and then we'll go to Marisol's. I don't think I'll be going back to Mum's house again, and it's not because of Mum. It's not because of her. Just to be clear on that. Things in life change, and what you thought was going to be right, it doesn't always work out that right. And that's no fault of my own. That's no fault of Ascension's. That's just how life goes. You know. You can choose friends, you can't choose family, guys. That's life. I'm a great believer in karma, by the way. I'm not a religious person, which is strange because I lived in Poland for a time, and a girlfriend, an ex-girlfriend of mine, God rest her, she died last year, breast cancer. I was with her for 14 years, and she was Catholic, you know. So, the funny thing is that people don't realise that I actually used to go to church and mass, and I actually know about Catholic religion. I know about right and wrong. I know about the Bible. I can quote you passages out of the Bible. How to live your life, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. You know, quotes about adultery, abortion, quotes about what the right thing in life to do is, and what you shouldn't do, and how you shouldn't be jealous or make false statements and things like that, and how to live your life right. Catholic religion was part of my life for 14 years, you know, because everybody in Poland's Catholic. That's life. I'm not a religious person. I've seen too much death, I've seen too much destruction in my life. I'm not going to get into that, because that's the old me, that's part of me that's... that part of me is dead now. It left scars, but it's dead. But I'm not religious. I will say this, you know, if there was a God, I don't understand how he could allow so much evil in the world. So much, you know. I've seen things, guys, that you wouldn't want to see, and you know, in the past. It leaves scars. But again, old life. But what I will say, I believe in karma, and I'm spiritual. You know, like, if you do bad things to people, if you do bad things will happen to you. It will. And if you're a bad person, no amount of going to church is ever going to change you, what's in your heart. You can't hide in a church. You can't hide behind a religion, because it's inside you. You know. So I don't do churches. Last time I was in the Philippines, we went for the christening of Isai and Isaac, and the pastor at the church in Ilocos Norte, where Mum lives, what a lovely woman. You know, she was lovely, very welcoming. But you know, inside I felt like I shouldn't be there. I felt like I shouldn't be in that church. I felt uneasy. And it's nothing to do with the people or the church. It's just that I felt like I didn't have the right to be in that church, that I didn't deserve to be part of that. Strange feeling that, isn't it? But that's me. That's part of the old me again. Strange. I felt emotional. I felt accepted. It's a strange one to explain, guys. And it was the same as when I went back to the Philippines in December anyway, with Ascension for the first time. I was excited and I was scared, I suppose, at the same time, because I had a family out there who I'd never met. And it meant so much to me to have a mother again, Nane, to have a mother. Because my mother died 11, 12 years ago. She died of cancer. She had Parkinson's disease for a long time, my mum. And she struggled and she suffered. And then she got cancer, and she was that weak that she would not have survived the anaesthetic for the operation to remove it. And they tried all sorts of things with her, but eventually the cancer took hold. And the only saving grace is that she then got dementia, and Mum didn't realise that she was ill, that she was dying. And it's heartbreaking to watch and to see. So, yeah, I've never really had a family. So it was a big thing for me last year to go home with Ascension, for Ascension to take a new husband home, and I felt like I'd gained a mother, which was so important to me. And then I felt like I'd gained brothers, you know, and sisters, cousins, and aunties and uncles. And do you know what? For that month in December, guys, I felt like I was complete with my wife, my mum, my brothers, my sisters. I felt complete. And there's a video somewhere when we actually came back from the Philippines, and I was holding tears back. I was holding tears back. I was hugging people, and I was genuinely going to miss those people. I didn't want to come home, guys. But anyway, we got home, and then certain things happened later. Certain things were said. When I couldn't be there to defend myself or defend my wife, to be honest. Things were said. These things were untrue. And it all got blown up. So, as we say in England, the bubble burst. It just popped. And then I had to sort of work out who is good, who is bad. Who do I want to spend time and money on? And who do I want to spend time away from? Who do I want to see anymore? Who do I want to talk to anymore, you know? That's just my perspective. I'm not mentioning names. I'm not mentioning anything, really. I'm just saying that people are not always what they seem to be. And that people can say things which are not true. And then they'll convince other people, or try to convince other people, that these things are true. And then people side with people. People take sides. And I think it's hard for me because I'm a foreigner. Parao, that's what they call me in the Philippines. And it doesn't matter how much good you've done for these people or how much you've tried to help them in the short time you were there. Because people can have two faces, you know. But anyway, I thank these people, because now I know, now I understand good and bad. I know who to trust, I know who not to trust. I'm just very upset that Nane, Mum, believe something which isn't true. And that is very upsetting. And I'm very upset that people have spoke badly about my wife. People, I'm not, again, no names, people have spoke badly about my wife. And they've not understood what she's gone through for the last 20-something years. Sending money back to the Philippines, looking after her children, struggling to work. People are not grateful. They don't understand. So you know what, guys, it's fine. It's fine. I've held this inside since December, which is cool. I lost a family before, I could lose another one. That's not a problem to me. But again, I'm thankful because I've got a great family. I'm so thankful for that family. I really am. And I'm so grateful to be godparent to those two beautiful children. And to be a big brother to Junior. Maricel. Also, I've got to mention Madame, sister Madeline, Madame. She's such a beautiful person, such a hard worker. She cooks every day. She's a school teacher, by the way, my sister, Madame. And her husband, he's a police officer. You'll have seen him in the videos back in December. Yeah, absolutely outstanding family. Again, they'll do anything for us, and you know, I love them so much. So, Madame, if you're watching, good morning. Yeah, absolutely blessed. I am blessed. Right, where are we now? We've done the M69. We are now jumping on to the A46. Wow. Again, nice quiet road. I've got to be a bit slower here because it's a 50-mile-an-hour limit when you get further over. Let's get over the bumpy bit. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's it. That's the bumpy bits. In a Range Rover, you hardly feel that. If I'd have been in a normal car, my head would have been through the sunroof by now. So, we're nearly there. I'm rambling on this morning, just driving, letting my thoughts out, and we're on our way to work on a Sunday morning. Right, well, that's the end of that motorway. So, there's the services here. I don't think I've ever used this one yet, but this is the end of the line for me. Just a quick left turn here. Oh, the Premier Inn. If I ever need to stay overnight, and a Miller and Carter Steakhouse. My God! So there's a hotel there and a steakhouse. So if I do in the future, because I'm going to be here about 3 years, if I do in the future need to stay here, I can ask them to book me into that hotel. That'll be handy. Because there might be a time when I'm doing long hours and I don't really want to do this 3 hours a day driving. This is a nice area. This is Finham, on the outskirts of Coventry. And this is where the top secret location is, guys. I'm going to be here for 3 years. As I said, we're doing enabling works at the moment, so everything we're doing is just in preparation for the main job, which is an incredibly technical job for a very, very high-profile client in the UK. So security is quite tight on this place. You need cards and things to get in the gates and things like that. Well, I've got cards, but I'm too lazy to go in the back seat and get my card out of my bag and swipe it. So what I do have is a secret weapon. I've got a phone number. I can call the phone number and then push the little hashtag key, and it opens the gate for me remotely. It's like the gate I want at home when we live in the Philippines, where you can just push something on your phone and your gate opens for you when you're driving home. Just bring my phone up, look into my last dial numbers, and I should have, there it is. You can't see this, so I'm not showing you any phone numbers. But if I push that, that'll ring. And then I push that. There we go. That should be doing its little thing for me now. Oh look. One gate. Straight open. Get in. Those big green things up there on the hill are what we're going to be playing with in the future with this particular company. There's 8 of those. We're taking the roofs off them and we're replacing all of it. That's why we need a 600-ton crane, guys, because them things are bloody heavy. There's 2 of my little machines. We're taking a load of concrete out here at the moment because that's on the left hand side is where the new offices are going to be. Right, let me just get rid of these barriers and then I'll give you a quick look around. There we go. So we're literally just putting a couple of weekend jobs on just to break out all this concrete on the left hand side. Richard Samuel, if you're watching, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Richard's excavator driver, plant operator extraordinaire, is one of our subscribers. Always makes some really nice comments, and it's always nice to talk with him and listen to what he has to say. So we've got a 5-ton and an 8-ton excavator on here at the moment. Only babies. But the pecker broke yesterday. We got an hydraulic leak on one of the peckers, the 8-ton pecker. And one of the male to female adapters is weeping as well. So I'm waiting for Pertec to come this morning to actually replace the pipe and replace the coupling. That's life, isn't it? So we can't do any pecking this morning until Pertec come out and replace the hose and the coupling. We had a coupling go last week as well, because when the pecker's like thumping into the concrete and like a bloody woodpecker demented on cocaine, the hydraulic pipes are flapping around and it's totally screwed them. Right, let's go and get the office open. I'll show you my new home. Ooh. Feels like Groundhog Day. Get my rucksack. Good old Range Rover. She's doing well. Do like that car. So yeah, we're pecking concrete at the moment. Digging down to the tarmac. This used to be a big concrete base with a transformer on it and 2 engines. And what we're doing, we're demolishing the concrete. Pecking it all out, all this stuff. And then when we've got rid of all that, we're going to make a nice concrete smooth base all the way over that's going to tie into the car park. So that's the weekend work. It's looking a bit grey at the moment. I wonder if it's going to rain later. Got some grab wagons coming in on Monday to get rid of all that shite. This is the second part, which we're digging out. There's the patients up there on the hill. Now we're going to need a bloody great crane to lift them off, especially the ones over in the corner. So up here, we're digging everything out. This used to be a car park. All this muck's got to go as well. And where that dumper sat there, there's going to be a big 10 metre wide by 30 metre long crane pad where a 600 ton crane is going to sit, and it's going to be able to reach and pick all these things up all the way around over the next 3 years. There's 2 more right over the back of that grey thing there. Don't know if you can see them, but there's 2 more. 3 years work, guys. Right, let's get these places opened up because the guys will be here soon. Start the generator. These cabins are only temporary. We're not going to have them here for long. As soon as we've broken out that concrete base over there, these 2 cabins will be going, and we'll have permanent porter cabins over there. Right, my office keys. Ooh. That'll be me then, manager and first aider. Welcome to my humble abode. Got me wellies, and that's my little base of operations for the duration. I have work permits, coats, and I have to get signed in. I'll unlock the rest, and then we can get this road on the show. I've got my little canteen. So I've got a little tiny fridge down there. In fact, there's the curry in there. I'll have that tomorrow. Kettle, microwave. It's my little place to eat. Just hope the weather stays nice today. And the good old site shit house. Right. That's it. Get the windows open, get myself signed in. That's me for the day. Oh, man. There we go. Let's wait for the lads to turn up now. Fire up the old laptop. Yay. Finish my coffee. This is work, guys. Sunday morning. Catch you in a bit. Right, that's about all I'm going to show you at work this morning. Don't want to give all my secrets away. Got a bit of paperwork to do, and question is, at 20 to 7 on a Sunday morning, what time is this fitter going to come out and sort out my pecker? That's the question. Because if he doesn't come today, what's left of that concrete over there is not going to get pecked out. It's not going to get crunched up and stuck on that pile ready for the grab drivers on Monday morning, tomorrow morning. So we're going to be a bit limited to what we can do here today. So I'm going to sign off for now, guys, and then I'll catch you on the drive back, and I'll give you a little update on what happened today, and we'll go and see Mrs. C, have a spot of dinner. So for me now, goodbye, and I'll just catch you later, guys. Thanks for watching. Well, 20 past 9, guys. The guy never came out to fix the pecker. That's maybe because it's going to cost a subcontractor £1,000 for outer hours calls. I don't buy for 1 minute that Gap Hire, who we've hired the equipment off, have not got an emergency call out number for weekends. That's bullshit. Anyway, I'm going to have another coffee, and I've got some very nice sausage rolls that Mrs. C kindly picked up for me yesterday. can probably hear the pecker, or the little pecker going on in the background. For me, personally, being an ex-plant fitter, and I used to drive machines, it's like pissing in a canal. You've got a 5-ton machine with a 5-ton pecker on it, trying to get through double reinforced 900mm concrete engine base. And it's not very old concrete either. It's painful to watch, guys, so I've just buggered off back in the office. Because all I can hear is the machine wait alarm bleeping every time he tries to peck and pull anything out. If you're not in the business like Richard Samuel is, then you wouldn't understand that. But I'm sure Richard will comment appropriately. Yeah, sausage rolls, coffee, and then 20 past 9. I think we're going to be out of here for lunchtime, guys, today. I really do. All right, guys. So, 10 past 11. 10 past 11. Machines are parked up again. It's pretty good up there. Everything's locked up. And the lads are on the way. Bye-bye, office. Oh. Not a bad day. As I'd say, we've made a hole in it. It's a shame they never came and repaired that pecker on the big machine. But we did what we could with a small one. We dug a load out, to be honest. It's getting less and less. We've got a nice big pile of muck for the lorries to come and take on Monday. Right, where's the old Range Rover? There she is. Alrighty. Well, that's another day done. So I worked last weekend as well. That means I've done a week, a weekend, a week, a weekend, and I'll do next week or tomorrow until Friday. Then I finally get a day off or 2 days off. Get this fag rolled up, get on the road. Time is it now? 10 past 11. So I should be home for about 12:30. The rest of the day, guys, is my own. Let's see what Mrs. C is up to. Well, I had to phone up the gate again to let myself out. Because, as I found on weekends, it's not set on automatic. So, bye-bye work. I'll see you tomorrow. Time to head back to the ranch, guys. If I get time, I'll take a look and see what that rattling is in the back of the car as well. I'm hoping it's something stupid like the jack not being secured properly in the boot. Just starting to do my head in now, rattling. You won't pick it up on the microphone, but it's definitely coming from the boot somewhere or under the boot. Right, let's get out of here. Do like the sound of a nice V8. I'll catch you sometime on the M1, guys. So that in front is the newer version of this Range Rover. And to be honest, I don't think I like them that much. They've got that horrible thing with the lights, that black thing on the back. Not really into that. 2 aerials on the roof. But that's a newer version of this one. I just don't think they look all that, to be honest. Don't particularly like them that much. So we're cruising about 85 on the M69 on a Sunday. Do you know what? I really, really love this car. It is so smooth and quiet and powerful. It just swallows up miles. Completely swallows them. It's just a shame that we can't take it to the Philippines. Because I swear, guys, I would export this car. I'd send it. And I'd send Ascension's little Range Rover Evoque over there as well if I could. But you just can't do it. Just can't do it. So the question is, we've got a motorbike over there, if you can call it a motorbike, little 160 scooter, which is great for getting around on. But we are going to need a car. I get that. I was going to buy an ADV 350, a bigger motorbike, but there's just no point. So I'll save up and I will buy a car instead. Question is, what car? Now Mrs. C's got it in her head that we're going to have a 7-seater, and I know what she's thinking. It's going to be for carting family around in. Well, no, we're not doing that. We could quite easily buy a 7-seater. But what's the point? When we come to build a house, or we're starting to move things from, let's say, Maricel's house to Loag, when we start building, I think we're going to need a pickup truck, a bit like the Ranger that we had before the Range Rover. That's what I think we're going to need. So that's got 5 seats. There's only 2 of us. We get 3 other people in the back, or 2 and a couple of kids. And we've got room to put stuff in. So do we get a pickup truck, or do we get a van? I don't know. Minibus van. Something where you can take some of the seats out. I've got it in my mind that I want a Ford Ranger Raptor. I want a 3-litre petrol twin turbo V6. That's what I want. And they do them over there, but they're expensive. They're about 2 million pesos. Or I could be sensible and buy a Toyota Hilux. I think it's the Invincible. About the same money, probably a bit less. But they're a Toyota. They're bloody reliable. Good engine. Nice. Not going to buy brand new. Waste of time. I'll buy something about 3 or 4 years old. I'll just get something. Might even get it on HP. You know, just pay it off month by month. Because you can, it's dead easy to get HP in the Philippines, guys. Even for a foreigner. So I might do that. So I think we'll end up with a Toyota Hilux. But then, me being me, it'll have to be black. I'll give it a 4-inch lift and strap some bars on it and some spotlights and make it just look funky. Because what's the point in buying a 7-seater car? Once we start moving things around, buying extra blocks, kitchen sinks, wardrobes, beds, you need room to put it in the back of the car, guys, don't you? There's no point having a car. You're just going to ruin it. Absolutely just ruin it. Especially with building materials, bags of sand, things like that. With a pickup truck, your 5 seats are comfy, you know, and the clean. You can keep everything clean inside. In the back, it doesn't really matter what goes in there because it's got a liner in it anyway. So, yeah, we're going to buy something. And I'll buy it before we move over there. We'll leave it with Morris and Maricel. And at least they've got a car if they want to use it. Because I think Morris drives cars as well as motorbikes. So at least it'll be safe. Right. It looks like we are coming up on the M1 now, guys. So traffic's moving really, really quickly today. It's a Sunday. That's one of my guys in front of me. I know because his right-hand side brake light's not working. We'll see when he put his brakes on. He's definitely one of mine. I can see a transit van about 5 cars in front of it. They're one of mine as well. That's our man Jake. Jake. Good lad. He subscribed to the channel yesterday, which incidentally, if you've not subscribed yet, guys, just push that button. Subscribe. You know, if I'm recording all this bullshit week after week, at least have the decency to watch it and hit the like and subscribe button. Oh dear. Alright, we're on the M1. Let's get into speedy mode. Let these cars get past me and away we go. You'll do. Out of lane. Yeah. Oh, there's always one bell end. Come on, bell end. He sees your indicator and just pulls out in front of you. In his shitty little Skoda Kamiq or whatever it is. Fuck knows what that is. Kamiq. It's not exactly an Octavia. So back on at Leicester, onto the M1, junction 21, and we got 5 junctions to go, and I'll be 10 minutes from home. Yay. So that's it. That is my boring day at work today, guys. This is what I do now, which is great. When I worked for the last company and there was a 2,000 man site and 25 different companies, and I was living away in Sunderland every week. 6 days a week I was technically working because I was travelling and I was working, you know. I was getting 1 day off a week. At least now I'm in my own bed every night. I'm getting more money. They're paying me more money and expenses. I'm much better off, much happier. It's great. We'll actually start to save some cash now, and we'll have money for when we go to the Philippines. I'm going to buy the airline tickets, I think, in the next month, 2 months. And it'll be a damn sight cheaper than last year. Because when we went last year, it was Christmas. And the prices of the airline tickets, guys, wow. They were over £2,000. £2,000 plus. Plus car parking. Wow. It should be less than that now if we're going in October. Should be much less. Happy days. I think what we're going to do is send some money to Marisol and Morris, and we're going to do something which will help them as well. Ask them if they'll build another room onto the house in the mountains. Breeze block, nothing special, just put a roof on it, and it's somewhere we can store our things then that we send over, because it's nearer to Loag where we're going to be building the house. It's nearer than Mum's. And obviously they've got another room on the house paid for then. So it's good for them, it's good for us. Hopefully if we send some cash, then Morris can build the Morris can build the house and build the room on, and we've got somewhere to crash. We'll see. We'll see. Alright, time check. 5 to 12. We're just coming up on junction 26. Brilliant. Not bad time at all today, guys. Nice 70 miles an hour, nice and steady, guys. In line with the UK's driving laws, being a responsible Range Rover driver. Let's just drop it into this gap. And we're coming off. Not been a bad day. I'll be home in 15 minutes. I'm sure Mrs. C's got something lined up for me. Something to do. She wants to put some more beans in the garden. So knowing her, she's probably been out today and bought some bamboo sticks. Maybe. That tapping in the back's starting to do my head in. I'm hoping it's not suspension dampers. But the car doesn't feel too bouncy. I don't think it is. It's just tapping. It's over the back right-hand wheel somewhere. Could be a bush or something, or just something that's loose. I don't know. I can hear it, especially when I brake. It's tick, 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 tick. It does really start to bloody annoy me. Alright, down the slip road. We are literally 15 minutes from home. Okay, it's the end of the dual carriageway. I just passed a sneaky bastard copper on the opposite side of the road. Speed cameras. Wow. He was doing the dual carriageway coming toward him. I'm hoping he's not doing my side going away from him as well. So I was probably about 10 mile an hour over the limit. We'll see. Another one here, look, with a death wish on the right. No pavement there, they just walk up the road. Wow. I remember years ago I was in this area, exact same spot actually, I was going the other way. And a lorry driver stopped in front of me, really hard. It's very early in the morning. And I pulled up behind him and I got out to give the lorry driver a load of bollocks, because I nearly crashed into the back of him. And when I banged on his door, he was just looking straight ahead. He totally ignored me. I thought, you miserable bastard. And some lad had come down the embankment to cross the road early in the morning, and he had a prosthetic leg. True story. And he fell over in front of the lorry. It wasn't his fault, the lorry's fault, but the guy died. I remember staying with him till the police came and then trying to talk to him, and I'll remember that. I'll never forget that. But he died. Yeah. I think he was an ex-soldier as well. He had a lot of ex-army tattoos, and I was trying to keep him awake, trying to talk to him, but he'd gone. It's a shame, really. That was 6 years ago, maybe. That exact same spot, but it was people trying to take shortcuts and get over the road by coming down the embankments and up the other side and walking down the side of the road, and they wonder why they get cleared up, you know. Sad, really. Anyway, we're nearly at Ripley. We're not far off. So I sort of hoped you've enjoyed coming with me today, getting up early with me, getting in the car at 5:30 and driving 126 miles today. Do a little bit of work. Not much to see, but again, it's a world of difference from a 2,000-man job, 25 different companies up in Sunderland. Just again, I've probably said it already, but I'm so much happier working for this company. So much better off and so much happier. Less stress. Because there was a lot of stress on the last job, to be honest. I mean, I'm a manager, I want to get stress anyway, but it was very unnecessary stress. You know, Mrs. C is happy. And we're at home in our own bed now. You know, we're not leaving the house 6 days a week. I miss the lads, Jerome and Pav and, you know, Johnny B. I miss them boys. They were good lads. But you know what? Things happen for a reason, and being honest, I'm much happier. doing what I'm doing now. I'm glad that I didn't take on another contract, because I'd have been down in where would I have been now? Somerset. I'd have been down in Somerset now working. They expected me to start work there the week before I took the job with the current company. But things work out for a reason, guys. You know, karma, that's what it is. At the start of the video I was talking about religion and karma and what goes around comes around, so everything happens for a reason. So I suppose even when things go bad in your life, guys, you know, when things don't go as you want them to go, and then you're getting stressed, and you know, you're not going to be able to change it. You're not, you know, so just try and accept it, and if you're going to believe in something, believe that things are going to get better. Things will get better in the future. You know, it can't stay shit forever, can it? Right, well, I'm going to leave it at that, guys. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm sorry it was a long, boring video today. Probably the only person out of the viewers that's really going to enjoy it is Richard, because he's a digger driver and he does this stuff for a living, day in, day out. You know, machine driving, and he'll understand exactly what I was talking about today with peckers and hydraulics and formations and all the rest of the garbage that goes with it. I don't really understand a lot about it, I'll be honest. That's because I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm not a ground worker. I'm not into groundworks. I mean, I started off as a plant fitter. I used to fix machines. When I weren't fixing them and I was bored, I was driving them. I had all my CITB cards, Richard, on grandfather rights, and I had everything. You know, excavators, dozers. I think the biggest I've ever driven was a D10 with a ripper on the back. Drag boxes, big Terex drag boxes, scrapers and boxes, motor scrapers. The biggest excavator I've ever driven, it just came out, it was brand new actually when I pretty much finished, and that was the Komatsu. I think it was a PC 650. Which had, it's the first time I'd seen Autolube on it. Dumper trucks, Cat 777 quarry truck, biggest one I've driven. But I used to drive around on A25s, A35 Volvo Arctic 166s, and Caterpillar D350s, which had the cab off to one side. And then I've driven Drots, some of the newer D6H. Dozers. I had to go with the grader once, that didn't end well. Too many levers. And then, yeah, I just let all my licenses go, and I got more into power stations and other types of engineering rather than fixing diesels. I mean, the first diesel I saw was, I think it was a motor scraper that had been converted to a roller. So it still had the swan neck on it. It was a really old Caterpillar. And I remember you used to fire it up on a petrol engine, then pull a lever, and it used to fire over the diesel engine, Rich. But they'd taken the box off, the drag box off the back and all the cables, and they'd put a big roller on it. And that was the first time I'd ever seen a Cat engine. Trying to work on that. So yeah, started with the petrol engine and then decompression lever and got the old diesel fired up. Happy days. I used to fix them and drive them. That was when I first started out. In fact, my qualifications, City and Guilds and everything like that, was in construction plant. That's before I got into robotics and automation. Anyway, I'm warbling on again. I'm banging on. So, there we are. I'm going to say goodbye for now, guys. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please just take the time to subscribe. Hit that button below. Give us a like. Send me a comment, even if the comment is like, Steve, you shit, give Mrs. C a go, which I'd be happy to do. Bloody beep, 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 beep. It's my Range Rover telling me something's in front of me. It's got like anti-collision warning or something. if a car slows down, it beeps and brings a red triangle up on the dashboard, just to wake me up a little bit so I can put my foot on the brakes. Right, that's it. I'm out of here. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching.